Welcome to the first episode of Midnight Monologues. This is a clearinghouse for things I'm interested in as a supplement to podcasts that I'm interested in. Like Riding the Void with Joe Roop, the Perfume Nationalist with Jack and Hortense, Last Podcast on the Left, and Monsters Among Us. Sometimes when I encounter something in my research, it lines up with other areas of research I've done. Or sometimes they're just two or things that I have liked, and I have always liked, and I just want to gather all those things in one place. I'm Lavinia Gardner. I'm a writer. I've only written one horror novel, though, so far, although I've been into horror and its offshoots for pretty much my whole life. So this video is a little addendum I've put together while I was looking into the perfume called Magie Noire by Lancôme. And I paired Magie Noire with a tarot deck, a French Marseille deck called Le Tarot Noir. Those are the things I'm going to be talking about today. Some of the symbolism that you find in both of these cultural artifacts, really. And that's kind of the thing I'm interested in. History, culture, conversations, symbolism, the creative process, aesthetics. Let's take a look at some of the things I found while I was researching Magie Noire. Tonight's special guest stars are the one and only Vincent Price, who is one of my favorite actors of all time. I've seen almost all of his movies. I'm a huge fan. I even have his cookbook. And his co-star in the 1958 movie House on Haunted Hill with Carol Ohlmart. This was, I believe, the second or one of his early horror films. It was a smash hit. It really cemented Vincent Price as the Hellhounds have been released. So here we're looking at Magie Noire paired with Le Tarot Noir. The music you've been listening to tonight is the opening credits of House on Haunted Hill. Magie Noire was one of the first bottles of perfume that I bought when I began my perfume exploration after listening to an episode of the Perfume Nationalist. I walk my dog every day, so I was looking for a Spotify podcast I could listen to. I just typed in a topic, Camille Paglia, and came up with some of Camille Paglia's lectures and conversations with Jordan B. Peterson, but also something that was called Polly and Poison. And it said it was a cultural look at Camille Paglia and the 1980s Christian Dior perfume Poison. So I listened to the episode. I thought it was really interesting. I bought a lot of perfumes and Magie Noire was in them. So I've been studying the relationship between scent and creativity for a while. And I've tried a bunch of different perfumes, over a dozen so far. And at this point, Magie Noire is the favorite. And my husband likes it too. So he hasn't, everything else I've worn ranges from he thinks it's just okay, or he can't smell it at all, or it smells like baby powder. Everything's baby powder. Ugh, and I keep trying to explain to him, it's not baby powder, but he doesn't get it. So I bought 2 vintage bottles. You can see the rectangular one with the plastic top with the orange and red. It's probably from the 90s, and the round vintage, which I'll be lucky if it's late 80s. But the rectangular perfume was really bad. Like, it was so vegetal when I sprayed it that my eyes started watering. So I don't know if it's because of the plastic cap and it over-oxidized, or it was left in the sun, or I'm not sure. But the round bottle, the EDT, which eau de toilettes are, I guess, generally kind of weaker anyway, it's still amazing. And I've worn that all last month during the month of October. It was the only perfume I've tried so far that my husband smelled it and he was like, oh, that's nice. So I have 2 of those bottles, and I'll get a newer bottle later to compare as I just researched the scent. The scent itself was designed to be a figure 8, or what we refer to in the tarot as a lemniscate. Most perfumes that you know of, you have top notes, middle notes, and base notes. And they form almost a pyramid of scent, taking you through each of them. The top note, when you first put it on, that evaporates pretty quickly. And then the scent will evolve as it oxidizes into the final base notes. But Magie Noire was the first perfume of its kind to come out, and the man who designed it, the nose, said that he designed it in the shape of a figure 8, so that it starts out with those top notes of that animalic, that civet hit, that hard ammonia. It's not altogether pleasant. It's a real hard-hitting scent, and there's very something feline about it too, like with sharp, dark claws. And I love that. So he imagined the scent as a lemniscate, a figure 8, where it starts out sharp and goes all the way down through the middle and the base notes. And just when you think it's done with the base notes, it starts to oxidize even further, so that it takes you all the way back up through the middle notes, and you end at the end of the day on that hard-hitting civet note. And I have to say, even in the 2 vintage bottles that I have, it really has turned out that way. I mean, it doesn't, maybe because they're a little over-oxidized, they don't go as sharp at the end of the day as they did in the beginning, but it's pretty damn close. So I thought that was kind of interesting that he designed it that way. I paired it with the Tarot Noir, which is a Marseille-style deck that was drawn in France. It's in black and white, the gilded edges. The edges there are gilded in gold. It has a black background. It's very shiny. The cards are quite large. The launch party for Magie Noire was held in 1981 in New York City, and they rented out a gay disco and kicked out all the gays and had a lavish party with black and gold decorations everywhere. There's a really excellent episode describing this party on one of the earlier episodes of the Perfume Nationalist, the Magie Noire Scare. I think it's episode 4 or 5. You can listen to it. It's still, although as a completionist, you should always go to the beginning and start from there. Honestly, but even if you do that, it's only an episode, like I said, 4 or 5 that's published. So you get the Aromatics Elixir episode, which is really good. And I've only listened to half of the Yadigan episode because I want to get the Bronze Age book that goes with it. And there's something else. I don't know, but I did have to listen to like an hour of Come Town. And Jesus fucking Christ, I wanted to kill myself. Anyway, Le Tarot Noir was drawn by Mathieu Haquier. And I don't know if he's just an artist who's interested in the tarot and thought he would draw himself a deck. A lot of artists will do that as part of their training as an artist. It's not unusual for an artist to be asked or to decide to draw their own tarot decks. Some of these artists actually know something about tarot, and others of them don't know anything about tarot. They just see images of the tarot that they connect with, and then they refilter them through their own consciousness and reproject them as into something else entirely. So I haven't really spent enough time with this yet. I don't read Marseille decks now. I have 3 study decks though. I have this as a decorative deck, and 2 study decks. So I'm just finishing up an exploration on the Tarot Vampires, which sounds hilarious. I did not think I would like that deck. I resisted getting that deck for a very long time because of the artwork, but I got it anyway, and holy shit, it's a deck created by a guy who knows about tarot, and wow, I found that really, really amazing. So, the perfume Magie Noire was thought of as a figure eight or a lemniscate in the way that the notes develop. The lemniscate is a popular theme among tarot decks, especially ones that are drawn in the Rider-Waite-Smith fashion. Marseille actually came before Rider-Waite-Smith, but you can see in the Magician card, the hat on top of his head is a figure eight. It's sort of reminding us of the figure eight, but it's not as explicit as it would be in some other decks that you've seen. Possibly the Rider-Waite-Smith. This is the Magician card from the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. This is a flanker, and much like Perfume flankers, tarot decks can have flankers. This is a flanker. It is called the Radiant Wise deck. There are lemniscates on other cards as well. You can see in the Strength card, the woman holding the mouth of the lion either open or forcing it closed, depending on your personal philosophy. You see the figure eight over all of that warm, rich, gold, yellow tone that's almost like sulfur. And Magie Noire, the perfume, reminds us so much of alchemy, and that's intentional. There is a huge hit of sulfur in the perfume, and people think that because when the box was released it had a lot of alchemical symbols on it, that the symbol for sulfur may have even been on the box. I checked for this. I wasn't able to find a symbol for sulfur, but I did find a picture of the box. You can see here it comes with the same perfume as the one that I have, but mine didn't come with a box, so. But you can see here all of these alchemy-like symbols, different ones. I researched, I came up with, I wanted to know if these were real alchemical symbols. Now, I did not see the alchemical symbol for sulfur. It doesn't appear anywhere on the front of the box. However, I did find on Dreams Time an artist with a plate of alchemical inspired symbols that they have available for you to purchase the rights for, like you would like a font or something. And some of her work appears on the Magie Noire box. While I did not find sulfur, I did find this, which has been attributed to resolve, is right there on the box. This symbol, which has been attributed to essence, also on this box right here in the top right corner. And the symbol attributed to pulverize. Oh my gosh, I want to talk to her about why she picked pulverize. But it's right there on the box. Not every symbol, there's the lemniscate there. Not every symbol that was on the style sheet appears on the Magie Noire box, but many of them do. This Magni, she lives in Italy. And I wonder if she was tapped to create the box for the Magie Noire perfume. I would love to ask her that. I do know that there was a tarot deck commissioned by Magie Noire by Lancôme for the Magie Noire launch that they wanted to launch alongside the perfume. The tarot is called the Annabella Tarot. It was created by Giancarlo Carlonia. I don't know who that artist is, but he is a local Italian artist. You can see that these images are really psychedelic. I do have a couple of psychedelic decks, but none that really look like this in the artwork. And I don't know anything about him or his work. I am a tarot enthusiast, but the tarot deck that was created for Magie Noire is like $300 on eBay. And it is a majors only deck, which means there's no suits, there's no cups, wands, swords, or discs. It's just the 22 major arcana images. So $300 is really steep for a tarot deck that I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know if this guy even knows anything about tarot or if he just took some LSD and made some really trippy pictures. They are really interesting, though. And so since they had already hired an artist, a local artist, to do the tarot deck, it's not inconceivable that they would have hired an artist to create the faux alchemy hieroglyphs that appear on the box, in my opinion. Lancome launched Magie Noire in 1978, but they had already built up a name for themselves with their previous perfume line, which was known as Magie. Magie launched in 1950, though, and its notes were amber, violet, musk, and jasmine. Some people say there was a little bit of animalic that ran through it, but I wasn't able to find any ingredients listing on that because it's so old. You can see that the first images of Magie were sort of really light, fluffy, cartoon birds braid your hair, Veronica Mars, Cinderella type of images that were they're very airy-fairy. It's a type of magic or a way to perceive magic, but there's really not any hint of the dark or the dangerous. But you can see how, as the years went on, they started to go a little bit darker in their imagery, starting first with just the colors, like there would be the similar, drawing of the bottle along with flowers, but this time in black and white. There are heavier and heavier tones here. You've got flames here. You've got a crescent moon, all magical symbols. And a sort of move away from all the really bright Cinderella, Tinkerbell type. You can see there toward the end, I think this is the end, you've got the bitten apple and the snake, but it's almost camp in a way because the snake isn't particularly scary. It's supposed to evoke the image of being scary, but the head is so big as to almost be comical and non-offensive. Like they were worried that some dainty women would be like, oh my God, a real snake, and flip the fuck out. So there's a fake snake in there, which comes across almost as camp. But the Magie came out in 1950, so it was providing images of the apple for long before poison. But this is Magie Noire. You can see that they used elements of the solar eclipse in their advertising campaigns. They're a little bit more mysterious, a little bit darker. You have the little bottle as the source of light in most of the images. That one's taken from the commercial which aired on television. And this is the 70s. They were going for this dark, hippie witch, but sexy, but seductive. But you see how she's got her eyebrows perfectly plucked, and she's wearing like the full red lip and the eyeliner and everything. This is not a dirty hippie witch, though. This is more of a sophisticated witch. And then this is so much indicative of the Hermit card. Actually, I should have put up an image of the Hermit card. She's holding the light in her hands. She's got the hood covering part of her face. It's very tarot almost in its image but the idea that there is darkness in the image and that there is magic and it's emanating from this alchemical profusion that they've made. This is an Italian advertisement for Magie Noire. You can see the man is in shadow and she is glowing. She is following the solar eclipse. A lot of the imagery in the Magie Noire campaign was supposed to evoke images of the solar eclipse. Some of them got a little racy toward the end there. I'm surprised that this one didn't get pulled, but you can kind of see that they went a little gonzo every once in a while to bring it to a new type of sexiness that no one had seen before. But you can see it's even at nighttime, there's a strange glow in the sky. It's very occult, aliens, UFO. There's something otherworldly in the Magie Noire imagery that I kind of liked, even though they're not the greatest ads. And some of them are really good. Some of them aren't awesome. The scent that I told you about, this is a civet. This is a particularly fat one, like some of us are. And you can see that they're really small mammal types, probably with claws, definitely with teeth. If you see this bitch on the sidewalk, probably don't try to pick it up.
Hey, Honey Badger don't care. Honey Badger don't give a shit. It just takes what it wants.
Very cat-like. It has the element of the civet is anal glands. Yes, when you see civet listed in it is in an ingredient, it is the expression of anal glands from that animal distilled into perfume form. But due to restrictions placed on the type of ingredients you can use, they don't do that now. I don't know where this is from. I don't know if somebody shot this or if this was an actual ad campaign. I just found it when I did an image search. But it's a really good setup. It's really beautiful. And you can see the cat imagery right there. The very same year, 1978, the same guy who made Magie Noire made a very similar perfume called Silences. And he put it out with another company. It's not quite as complex as Magie Noire. It doesn't have as many ingredients, but it is very like that in a world where I don't think anyone was like that. And even the ad campaigns were slightly similar. So, I don't know what was going on there, because there is a lot of similarity, not only between the way the perfumes smell, but the way that they were marketed at the time. Even the bottle for Silences was round like the Magie Noire bottle and had a top that popped off. And there was this crystal like stopper underneath, which was very reminiscent of the Magie Noire bottle, which came out in the same year. So obviously something going on with that. But the Magie Noire bottle was designed to be an alchemist's alembic. Alchemy is a form of mysticism practiced in the Middle to Late Ages, where people were experimenting with science and a sort of proto-science, and they were, among other things, distilling all kinds of things in their apparatus that they had only just discovered how to build. I have this book on Alchemy and Mysticism by a German publisher named Taschen. You can see it right there. And these are their artistic representations of alembic. People who were not usually very educated, who had to teach themselves to read, would, some people say, encode messages in these images about what they were really doing. I don't know much about that. I'm not an expert on alchemy, but I find it very interesting. There is the bottle, and sitting under the solar eclipse, meant to look like an alchemist's alembic. So here is the television commercial for Magie Noire, launched in 1978 to 1981, so somewhere late 70s, early 80s.
Magie Noire, Lancôme, Paris.
So you can see that they're going for a darker sort of imagery. She's a witch, she's seductive. There's a hint of the devil in the imagery with the alchemical symbols, but also there is a hard hit of sulfur in the perfume that you get when you smell it, and is evocative of some, dangerous magic. Here is a perfume ad from a reworked version of Magie Noire in the probably 90s or early 2000s. So, okay, thanks, I hate it. I don't really like the second commercial. I don't understand it. I don't think it really, I guess with the chanting, it's a little bit mysterious, but it's just not giving me the same vibe. It's not giving me what I want. So, I had all these images in my head, and I wanted to think of a movie I could pair Magie Noire with, but I really couldn't find anything that has those sharp, dangerous, seductive notes. The original Magie, with all of its, cartoony Cinderella, Tinkerbell imagery, really, I thought, fit better with things like Bewitched, which is a comedy TV show that just really wasn't fitting the aesthetic or the vibe that I think of when I think of Magie Noire. I also tried a movie called Hungry Wives, which started out as a regular movie, was shot by George Romero, who also did Night of the Living Dead. He shot the movie straight, like just a regular movie with horror elements. His producers had trouble finding a distributor for the movie, so they chopped it up and turned it into a porno called Hungry Wives. Yes, that's true. And it flopped in both, I think, Europe and the US, so they went back to Romero, said, put all the scenes back in the movie, they made the movie, they released the movie again as legit, and I think it did okay. It's an interesting example of an early Romero film, but it's not great. So I really didn't want to pair it with that, and I just had trouble of finding the very specific sort of witch or horror themed, supernatural themed movies that would fit with this aesthetic that they were trying to pull off of alchemy and scary and witchcraft and hits of sulfur. So I thought, scrap that idea and just go with the woman. She doesn't have to be a witch, just somebody seductive and dangerous. And then because I was watching a lot of Vincent Price movies for Halloween, it hit me. Oh, House on Haunted Hill. House on Haunted Hill came out in, I believe, either 58 or 59. And it was Vincent Price's, one of his early horror movies. It turned out to be a smash hit. A hit with audiences everywhere. It really cemented Vincent Price's role as the new reigning king of horror movies. And in it, his wife is Annabelle. And I thought that was funny, because the tarot deck that Giancarlo Carloni made for Magie Noire, he called it the Annabelle Tarot. So I was like, that's funny. That's an interesting synchronicity. And she strikes me as the type of woman who could handle a little black magic in her life. And maybe there's some secrets about her. She's a little bit dangerous. So we're going to watch the trailer to House on Haunted Hill. And then we're going to watch a little clip of the woman that I think would be wearing Magie Noire, even though this movie technically came out several years before it. The Perfume did.
I'm Vincent Price, and you're invited to my party in the house on Haunted Hill, where so far the ghosts have murdered only 7 people. So won't you come and make it 8? You'll see human heads without bodies. Mysterious pools of blood dripping from the ceiling. The walls move slowly in against you. Don't try to escape, you can't. You ready?
No.
Are you ready, dear?
Yes, damn you.
The ghosts are waiting, so won't you join me in the house on Haunted Hill? Hurry, or you'll be late for your own funeral.
That house at the end of the movie and the house where they shot the film is actually a real house in California, by the way. I'd like to do a full episode of just House on Haunted Hill, really go in deep with it and the imagery and stuff. But here is a scene.
Annabelle, our guests are here and fortunately still alive. Is your face on yet?
Dust and dirt everywhere. The water barely trickles. Couldn't you have had the place cleaned?
Atmosphere, darling. You know how ghosts are. They never tidy up. And that's a very fetching outfit, but hardly suitable for a party.
I'm not going to the party.
The spend the night ghost party was your idea, remember? Since it's going to cost me $50,000, I want you to have fun.
The party was my idea until you invited all the guests. Why all these strangers? Why none of our friends?
Friends? Do we have any friends?
No, your jealousy took care of that.
I had a reason for inviting each guest. I wanted kind of a cross-section. From psychiatrist to typist, and from drunk to jet pilot. They share one thing. They all need money. Now let's see if they're brave enough to earn it.
And you call this a party?
Could be.
Why do you always do that? It spoils the champagne.
It might explode.
Never does.
Would you guarantee that?
That isn't funny, Frederick.
Make a good headline. Playboy kills wife with champagne cork. Will you join me?
No, thank you.
Just a sip might improve your humor.
My humor is fine, thanks. And I haven't poisoned it.
It's always good to know that. Have some. You'll enjoy the party more. Go on.
Your trust is so touching. And I'm not going to the party.
Of all my wives, you're the least agreeable.
But still alive.
Would you go away for $1 million tax-free? You want it all, don't you?
I deserve it all. Your jealousy isn't tax-free. And your possessiveness is maddening.
If ever a man had grounds for divorce,
That can't prove them.
the time will come. You'll slip up one of these days,
Think so?
if I live long enough. You remember the fun we had when you poisoned me?
Something you ate, the doctor said.
Yes, arsenic on the rocks. Annabelle, you'd do it again if you thought you could get away with it, wouldn't you?
Darling, what makes you think that?
Something about you. I hear that hanging is very uncomfortable, in case you get any more ideas. Don't let the ghosts and the ghouls disturb you, darling.
Darling, the only ghoul in the house is you.
And don't sit up all night thinking of ways to get rid of me. It makes wrinkles.
That was an iconic scene from that movie. And even though we don't know that she's a witch, although, hey, she might be. As he says, there's just something about you, Annabelle. But she tried to poison him once before. Not that I can blame her, because she's his fourth wife. The first wife having disappeared, and the other two dying of heart attacks. Both women in their 20s. So it's hinted that he murders all the wives that he's unhappy with, like some sort of deranged Bluebeard. And that she thought she could wrangle him, perhaps using black magic. And now that she realizes he's not the catch that she thought he was, and in fact he's a murderer, she tried to poison him to get out of the deal. So I've always loved her character. I've always loved that movie. And she just came to my mind, Annabella and Annabelle, she just came to my mind as the type of woman who would wear Magie Noire and get away with it. Because even though Carol Ohlmart is pretty young in this film, I don't know how old she was when she shot it. We're going to have to really I'm going to do a deep dive on this movie. I really do. She is very young, but she really holds her own there. She's really self-possessed. And she has this sort of feline quality about her, which is the same feline quality that you get from Magie Noire. They have a colorized version of this movie. I don't know how I feel about it, to be honest. I can't tell in the coloration process whether these are true colors or as near as they can guess, because Annabelle wearing purple in that scene really kind of changes the dynamic. I mean, she's a woman with long blonde hair. She's wearing purple and gold. If that's the aesthetic, she's really giving off, the Whore of Babylon vibes. But imagine if her upper garment that's purple was more indigo or dark blue. then that would be blue and gold, and that would be giving me Egyptian black magic that she knows. But it's weird that she has blonde hair. But then, hello, The Hunger. I didn't get why Catherine Deneuve would be a woman with blonde hair in Egypt. I mean, I kind of get people who are like, oh, cultural appropriation. And in some ways, I don't agree with that because, you know, the Greeks were running around there somewhere, the Ptolemies. But they weren't blonde, let's put it that way. There was no Swedish Viking ruler of ancient Egypt. So maybe we could just, put a nail in the coffin of this idea. But I really like this movie. I really think that Annabelle in this movie is the perfect representation of what kind of woman I think would wear Magie Noire. Okay, so I paired all of this with Le Tarot Noir, which, as I said, is a French Marseille deck. Marseille only has non-illustrated pips. The pips are the suit cards, the cups, wands, swords, and discs. They are not illustrated. But I love the color scheme of this tarot deck. I love the dark gothic vibes it gives. I love that it's almost like Tim Burton, but really even more pagan and almost classier in a way. I don't know. I haven't studied it that much. It does come with a book, which I'll show you later. But the images are really unique. They're really interesting. There is a very dark magic vibe going on through them. This is my show deck. Like, I bought it because I just love the imagery. I have one other Marseille deck that I will be studying, and then I have another just fun Marseille deck. So I only have 3 Marseille decks. The only complaint I have about it, though, it can be damn hard to tell the difference between the wands and the swords and the pips because they're drawn so similarly. You can only tell, honestly, by the color schemes sometimes. There's just not enough of a difference there, which I found kind of irritating. But other than that, it's a great deck. The suits are nicely laid out, even though there are no pictures to go with them. There's a lot of intricate detail. The cards are quite large. They're also gilded on the edges. They're black and gold. Just like the Perfume Magie Noire was at its 1981 launch. The backs, these are non-reversible, which means if you deal a card upside down, face down, you will know that it's reversed because it's clearly a flower. It comes in a nice, sturdy, large box. The cards are oversized, and there's a book inside as well. The book has very large representations of the cards, so you can see more detail. It's paperback though, and one page came out while I was trying to film it. So even through general handling, the spine cracked on this, and all the text is in French. I speak a little bit of French, but not enough, so I need to brush up before I can really study this deck. I took 4 years of French in college, or 4 years in high school, 2 in college. But I still don't speak French enough to know. To be able to translate it. But it is a beautiful deck if you can get your hands on a copy. It's really worth having. It's very, very nice. I already had House on Haunted Hill because I'm such a fan of Vincent Price. I'm not all of his movies, but I'm slowly working my way through all of his movies. I have read. I have his cookbook. I'm such a fan. I have Vincent Price's cookbook, which I find very interesting. I'm going to probably do an episode on that when I want to do an episode of just Vincent Price, and I will include Vincent Price's cookbook, which will blow you away at how fucking cool it is, I'm telling you. I paired Magie Noire, which is so far my favorite perfume that I've discovered in my perfume explorations, and paired it with Le Tarot Noir, which is one of the more beautiful Marseille decks that I've come across in my journeys. And we watched clips from the House on Haunted Hill, which is always a good way to spend your time. So thank you for tuning in to the very first and hopefully not only episode of the Midnight Monologues. I'm your host, Lavinia Gardner. Just a little collection of things that I enjoy and things that I'm doing right now and things that I'm interested in. I am a writer. I have written a lot of books, but I have only written one horror novel. My contribution to the Lovecraft genre is available on Amazon. If you have $1 and some time, check it out. If you love it, leave me a review. If you hate it, leave me a review. Tell me why. But that was my contribution to the world that I have enjoyed my entire childhood.
Annabelle, our guests are here, unfortunately still alive. Is your face on yet?
Dust and dirt everywhere, and the water barely trickles. Couldn't you have had the place cleaned?
Atmosphere, darling. You know how ghosts are. They never tidy up. And that's a very fetching outfit, but hardly suitable for a party.
I'm not going to the party.
This spend-the-night ghost party was your idea, remember? Since it's going to cost me $50,000, I want you to have fun.
The party was my idea until you invited all the guests. Why, all these strangers? Why none of our friends?
Friends? Do we have any friends?
No, your jealousy took care of that.
I had a reason for inviting each guest. I wanted kind of a cross-section. From psychiatrist to typist, and from drunk to jet pilot. They share one thing. They all need money. Now let's see if they're brave enough to earn it.
And you call this a party?
Could be.
Why do you always do that? It spoils the champagne.
It might explode.
Never does.
Would you guarantee that?
That isn't funny, Frederick.
Make a good headline. Playboy kills wife with champagne cork. Will you join me?
No, thank you.
Just a sip might improve your humor.
My humor is fine, thanks. And I haven't poisoned it.
It's always good to know that. Have some. You'll enjoy the party more. Go on.
Your trust is so touching. And I'm not going to the party.
Of all my wives, you're the least agreeable.
But still alive.
Would you go away for $1 million tax-free? You want it all, don't you?
I deserve it all. Your jealousy isn't tax-free. And your possessiveness is maddening.
If ever a man had grounds for divorce,
That can't prove them.
the time will come. You'll slip up one of these days,
Think so?
if I live long enough. You remember the fun we had when you poisoned me?
Something you ate, the doctor said.
Yes, arsenic on the rocks. Annabelle, you'd do it again if you thought you could get away with it, wouldn't you?
Darling, what makes you think that?
Something about you. I hear that hanging is very uncomfortable, in case you get any more ideas. And don't let the ghosts and the ghouls disturb you, darling.
Darling, the only ghoul in the house is you.
And don't sit up all night thinking of ways to get rid of me. It makes wrinkles.
That covered up two things, so you do have to move them individually. You gotta be fucking kidding me. Make this easier, Apple. Jesus. No wonder no one does this. It takes too fucking long. God, talk about having multiple personality disorder. It's hard to know from time to time who I am supposed to be. Oh, I should turn this off. That'd be a good indicator, though, of what that's like while that fan is on. Because it's cold. It's 37 degrees. Oh, 37 degrees. That cold snap happened fast. It was like the calendar was like, okay, it's November 1st. Everybody ready? Freezing. fuck you, bitch. It's like Elsa came to town and she's mad about some shit. I don't know. I don't remember much about that movie, but she made people cold when she was angry. So, there you go. Definitely Hecate weather. Let me turn on some tunes. Can they hear my tunes? If I play them out loud. Ooh. Wait. If I play that and while I record, does that show up as a thing on my... No. Hold up. You're telling me... Oh my god. Anything I want shows up on the recording of the thing I'm going to give to people. Oh my